next topic. And this is what we spoke about just before we started recording.
Yes.
So on Instagram, I've seen that you've posted a few things related to anxiety. So, in broaching the subject, I want to be, responsible about it because I'm not a doctor, but I do want to get, I do want to get your insight on it. So, first of all, anxiety, is it something that you have struggled with? And when did you? And if so, which I know the answer to it because we talked about it.
Right.
When did you first identify that you had anxiety?
Yeah. So I want to say I started noticing that things, it's so hard to, just like I said earlier, I think it's different for every person, and it can look different for every person. For me, I started noticing some signs of this, of just being very anxious around middle school. And I don't really know why, but it had to do with with testing and studying, homework. I think growing up, I had way too much on my plate. I'd get home. I remember getting home really late. Like my mom or dad would pick me up from ballet, and I would get home at like 9 o'clock at night. I'm starving, so I just scarf something down, and then I just get so tired, and then I had all this homework to do. And I remember like fifth grade maybe pulling an all-nighter to do a project one time, and I was like, this can't be normal, but I thought it was, and I started getting into that habit of procrastinating, and then because I just felt sick. Like every time anything was going to be a serious grade or a lot of pressure. And I thought that was normal. I would just get so sick to my stomach. And then I started realizing I don't think this is normal. I don't think I'm supposed to be feeling this way. It shouldn't be this difficult to take a reading test or a math test. It shouldn't be. And granted, I mean, there's some hard, material out there, but it shouldn't be where I make myself sick, or I can't sleep, or it just didn't feel right. So I started noticing it more in high school. I think those habits kind of carried throughout high school. And I was really, really good at faking it and acting. I was good. I was fine. I was okay. And there were just times I really wasn't. But I think it got worse in college. Again, putting way too much on my plate and not knowing how to say no, and just agreeing to yeah, I'll do this. Yeah, I'll do that. And just getting way too overwhelmed. So I started noticing I had a panic attack in college. I ended up going to the hospital, and I was just like, this is not okay. This is my break, kind of my breaking point. So I started seeing a counselor or a therapist that they had on campus. She was so awesome and cool. And I knew going home, after graduating, I was with her for almost 3 years, and she knew me really, really well. And she knew that I was very anxious about going back home, to save money and start this crazy career. I think I've always had this anxiety because of acting is so, there's no rule book. There's no blueprint. It's just kind of is what it is. There's no right or wrong path for the career. And being that age, I think around 22, 23, it started to really hit me oh, if I'm really going to do this, this might be a really hard path for me. And they always talk about oh, you're going to need a plan B, and you're going to be a starving artist. And you just like, you start thinking these negative thoughts and they keep circling and circling. And I just knew I didn't want to give it up. So came back home, and living at home, unfortunately, it kind of like that anxiety picked up again. And a lot of it was, it's definitely anxiety is like the ground of it. And then like you add a little bit of depression in there. It's almost like my mind will just go, 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 go. And then I'll get so tired that I don't want to do anything. And I'm just like, I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore.
So, sorry,
little back and forth. And that's what I've learned about my situation.
So when did you, first decide that you wanted to be, I guess, more open about it and, posting about it on Instagram or even here talking about it? When was that?
It honestly was pretty recently. Well, I've always I think my close friends and people that know me really well have always seen it, always been around it. They know that I've really been trying to work on it, meaning like working on it, like going to see someone, and therapy or a counselor, psychiatrist. I was taking some medicine to help with that, and it really, really, really helped me. There have been a couple times where I haven't taken it, like I've gotten off of it for like 6 months to a year, and I just can see a huge difference. And I thought, well, and the reasoning for that was because I didn't want to like say like I was like dependent on it. I wanted to say, oh yeah, I did that for a while, and now I don't, now I have everything under control now. And it just, I think I was just lying to myself in a way. And it really wasn't until my family members were like, we think that this is something that you really need in your life. We can tell a difference, and we obviously want you to be happy and productive and do what you love, and be the person that you want to be and love the people that you want to love and give. And I really couldn't get a grip on it. Felt like I couldn't get a grip on it when I was off the medicine. So it really wasn't until about 1.5 years ago where I was like, you know what? This is going to be a part of me or my story, but it doesn't define me, or it doesn't like say like I'm weak or anything. And there are times where I'm like, oh, I don't like saying it, but I also think that that's like not talking about it makes it more of like this thing that, oh, we don't talk about this.
You kind of destigmatizing it by talking about it.
A little bit. Yeah. I think, and for me, I'm a talker. I want to talk things out. I want to know all the things. I'll talk about something till I'm blue in the face, but it really is important, I think, to understand, or I guess it really is like me wanting to help other people, because it helps me to talk about it. So I hope and think that maybe by talking about it, it could help somebody else, or vice versa. Like it could help me. And I don't know. So it was about 1.5 years ago, and kind of accepted that because I was not doing well. I just wasn't. And it was interesting. The moment I kind of accepted that, and it's like, you know what, I'm not going to be weird about this anymore. I'm going to talk about it. And if someone asks, I'm happy to. And it really was, then I started to adapt like these healthier habits that I've been working on, and really starting to believe that like, oh, like the work that I'm doing in my head mentally and emotionally in my heart, like I think it's working. I'm not saying that it's like, it doesn't, not to say like it has to work. It just was, I was seeing the results that I thought that I would have seen, years prior, but I really didn't. I don't think I fully bought into it. I was like, well, I don't really have that. I think it's just like this thing, it's my personality, and it's like not until like a doctor, multiple doctors, and my my loved ones that are like, no, you have anxiety, Allie, like you do. And it's like, oh, okay, sure, yeah. So I guess for me, it's been a journey. It's been a struggle to talk about it, but recently, I think it's actually been really helpful.
Good.
So yeah.
Well, so since you're open to talking about it, I'm assuming, and actually from the sound of it, it sounds like you have made progress, since you, I guess, accepted it and such. For others out there who might be having anxiety, who might be struggling with it, or I don't even know the terminology to use, but for others out there, what advice would you give, on how to, whether it's to acknowledge it or to, address it? What advice would you have for them?
I guess first, just don't be hard on yourself. First of all, right now with everything going on, I must have said that like this whole entire year, especially to friends. It's like, please do not be hard on yourself right now, because this is not a normal situation. This pandemic is, I think, causing a lot of different anxiety issues, depression issues, relationship issues. It's work issues. The list can go on. And I think with that, a lot of your mental health is very, very important. And I realize like it's not easy to talk about, because I just don't think we have a big understanding of it. I think we're still learning so much about mental health, which I've really found I actually really like learning about it and reading things about it, or blogs or Instagram posts, that I've been posting. So I guess my advice is, don't be hard on yourself, but also, either talk to someone or find a therapist. Now, I mean, therapy can be literally through a Zoom call now, which is pretty cool, that I think we're at that stage now that you can literally just sign on, log in and talk to a therapist if you need or want. I know with health insurance, that can be really tricky to find someone that might take your coverage. That's been a problem for me in the past. But if you can't talk to a therapist, talk to the people around you, your friends, your family, or gosh, I write a lot. Even if it doesn't, I'm not a huge writer, but I love writing down my thoughts and like how I'm processing things. And then of course I'll binge all the shows just to like kind of get away for a little bit. But I've really found that even if just walking outside has helped me tremendously. And I know I'm nervous for the winter, because I know it's going to get, who knows what it's going to bring. But I'm a summer girl, and I love the fall and spring. And I've been almost walking like every day. I'm not a huge runner or anything, but I've really enjoyed walking. And I think I've kind of started that through quarantine. Even just being outside, it's helped me so much. So yeah, I'm trying to think.
No, I think that's pretty good advice you gave. I do
Look,
want to.
I need to take some of it too.
I mean, yeah.
So,
Well, hey, we're recording this, so you could always watch yourself back and be like, "Oh,
right,
that's good advice, Allie."
right.
So I did want to touch on the mental health thing you said about not having a good grasp on mental health. I think in Georgia, that's a big issue. My plug in another features that we did. I interviewed my friend who's a cop, and he was saying that there are no free mental health clinics in Georgia. Basically, in order to get free mental health, you'd have to be in the prison system, you know. So it's either that or you got to shell out a lot of money. And as you mentioned, some health insurance is they're a little, I guess, more stringent when it comes to covering that. So yeah, it's problematic, but I'm glad you have all these tidbits of wisdom for someone who might not even know yet that they're struggling with anxiety, but they just know that things don't feel right. Yeah, so
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too for me was I started noticing the habits. Uh, I didn't really even know if it was a habit that I was doing, or that I would kind of go back to. I started the people around me. I started to notice, habits that how I would treat the people that I love the most around me, almost like that anxiety was kind of getting the best of me, and I was putting a lot of my frustration and that anxiety on other people, which didn't even really realize I was doing it. Then there were those times I was like, oh yeah, I'm being absolutely, I'm putting this on someone else, and that's not fair. Why? And I'm asking those hard questions. I think that's another thing too, is really asking yourself, looking at yourself in the mirror, or just really thinking about what is it that is bothering me? Why is it bothering me? And asking yourself those uncomfy questions. It's not easy. I've I've had some counselors in therapy and things like that to kind of practice this mindfulness of that. But man, with life and every day, it's so hard to do. And I mean, life is just hard as it is. So if you're struggling with like bipolar and depression, or um, there's so many different things that we can do for ourselves, but like if you don't have those resources to really help you cope with it, it can just feel impossible. And that's why, that's a whole nother topic about our healthcare system.
yeah,
But
impossible, lonely even. Yeah.
yes, so lonely, so lonely. That kind of bringing it back to like the acting world. I think a lot of why uh, maybe I always thought maybe I was anxious because, and it had this horrible anxiety, was maybe because of of even being an actor. And then I was like, that's not it. I'm anxious even walking outside or driving in the car. So that can't be it.
Mhm.
But all the things that come, the uncertainty about being an actor, it just would amplify it. And to a point where I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore. I would wake up, I still wake up every day asking myself, do I really want to do this? Can I do this? I don't, it almost feels impossible at times. You can't give up. You just can't let it get the best of you. And because I have, and it's just not worth it. So.
So when you say to yourself, do I really want to do this? What is it that gets you to that point that you say, yes, I do want to do this?
Man. Well, definitely when you book a job, that's like super exciting. And because you kind of have to do, the actor does in your mind, you do the math and you're like, wow, out of however many people, I got the job. Like they wanted me, which is really cool to experience. And that's so exciting. And then, for instance, if you work on a show or go on set, it's just so thrilling and it's so exciting. And it really, really stinks when it all comes to an end, and then you have to do it all over again, where you have to like keep auditioning for that next, for the next thing, the next thing, and the next thing. And it can get really exhausting. And I think that's why I'm like, can I keep doing this? Because it's so tiring, like mentally. But then I go, well, what else would I do? And then I go, would I be happy doing anything else? Probably not. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I guess I'm going to do it. And then go about my day.
Okay.
Uh, it's a lot of also waiting around being an actor. I mean, you have to wait for these auditions to come in. Hopefully they're the right type, they're the right role for you. And then, you put yourself out there and you hope that they like you. It's a very strange profession.
I imagine so.
When you think about it.
I do have a question with regards to acting that I was going to ask before and I completely forgot about it. So my co-host and I actually talked about the fact that the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences, such a long name, they've come out with new eligibility requirements for the Oscars, and we did this hilarious thing where I read through the entire requirements for 6 minutes straight. And so in the video edit, I just put, you can skip to this time. Zino won't be offended, I promise. So
right.
My question to you is going to be, do you, well, okay, do you think these new eligibility requirements will actually have the desired effect of, expanding I guess the level of storytelling, like what stories are told, I guess the opportunities for maybe marginalized groups.
Yeah.
Do you think it would have that effect, or do you think it's a band-aid?
Oof. I can only hope that it's gonna have an effect. That real change is gonna happen for the representation in film, especially. Yeah. It's just it's been too long. It's been too long, and I think it is really an exciting time. I think. I mean, right now, obviously, it's a little not, yeah. But there's still a lot of doubt, and there's, Hollywood has so much work to do, like so much work, even with not even just the Oscars, but like everything with like the Time's Up movement, and I mean, Black Lives Matter movement. It's just there's just so much that Hollywood has shown us. I think that. I mean, it just has a lot to prove. If they really are about telling stories, then do it and include everyone. So I'm hoping it's not just a Band-Aid. I haven't actually looked at it. I haven't even been able to watch. I think the last Oscar movie I watched was Moonlight.
Let's say if you only ever watch one more, watch Parasite. I absolutely love that movie.
Oh wait, yes, I did.
Okay. I love it.
I did. That is epic.
Yeah.
That movie was. I was screaming.
It was one of those where after I watched it, I was like, I gotta find more content, and I went through YouTube, Parasite Explained, the genius of Parasite, blah, blah, blah. I must have spent, like, the movie itself is like just a little over 2 hours. Yeah. I must have spent another maybe 8 hours on YouTube just watching content. I loved it so much, I wanted more.
It's so good. So I watched it during quarantine, while quarantining, because I think it was released on Hulu, yeah. Early on. Like they were like, hey, we got, we're going to release this. Yeah. And so I didn't get to see it in theaters, but oh my, I was screaming,
Yeah, it was one of the few
screaming
times that my dad stayed awake through a movie,
through a movie.
because we always like meet up on Sundays, and we meet up on Sundays for like dinner. So then I said, "Hey, Parasite's on Hulu. It won Best Picture," and
Let's
my dad
go.
was my dad was in, right, because I thought, oh, subtitles, he's not going to watch it, and he stayed. I mean, like, he absolutely loved it, and it's a testament to how important it is to have that diversity in storytelling. Because
Yes.
in previous years, maybe not like the last 5 years, but let's say like a decade ago, what are the chances that a completely Korean-made movie would be
Right.
in the running for the, yeah, Academy Awards
And winner of Best
and
Picture.
win? Yeah, exactly. So that it is a testament to why it's so important to, you know, have diversity of representation in
Yeah.
media. Yeah.
And
So
most of a lot of and that is something that I wish that I had the time to do, is just watch a lot of, I mean, watch all the films in the world, but a lot of foreign films. I think Hollywood has this like way of having its own kind of thing. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I loved La La Land, and but like Moonlight is what was gonna win, like should have won, and it did. They thought it did, and it did, but it's like, you know, it's just the type of movies. It's it's exactly what you're saying. Like, what are the stories that we want to tell? And I think the the more diverse, the more we include everyone's story, just the more richer it's going to be,
yeah.
and the more impact, and it's only going to make it better. It's not, it can't make it worse, because I don't know. I hope that real change is happening, and real change is coming. And I know that there's so many people involved, and you know, you really have to like have representation in every job, if that's in TV and film and, you know, theater. You just have to.
That actually reminds me of something, and it was when I was doing the reading of the rules, and one of the standards is actually around marketing. So,
Hmm.
okay, the way it's structured is like you have these four standards. One having to do with like people in front of the camera, um, people doing the production or directing. Then there's marketing, and then I forget what the fourth one is. But basically, you have to satisfy two of those four standards.
Right.
And the marketing standard, you know, is essentially that one of these groups has to be represented, and then it like breaks down a bunch of different ethnic groups, and then says LGBTQ, women, so on and so forth. And I was telling my co-host about why marketing is actually really important, that we don't really think about it. But the example I brought up was that in China, the 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 poster for The Force Awakens, Star Wars Episode 7,
Yeah.
Finn was actually a pretty big part of that movie. And in the American poster, he's, you know, you can see him show up as big as his part is, right?
Right. Right.
In the poster, you know, John Boyega is just as large as Daisy Ridley and Oscar Isaac. In the Chinese poster, he's like really small in the picture. It's like almost the exact same picture, but they like miniaturized him.
They like made, right, like photoshopped it down, or,
Yeah,
and this is
yeah,
the one where it has like all of them on
yeah,
it, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
And
No
it's one of
way.
those things. Well, so, you know, I guess the calculation was like, oh, well, the Chinese audience would rather see this and that. I get that. Whatever. It's one of those things where I wonder if you had a black person being the one in
Hmm.
charge of that marketing, would that black person have said, you know what? I know the Chinese don't want to see a black person there, but screw it. You know, John Boyega is a big part of this movie. Put him there. Yeah.
Yeah, like it did, this is his role, like it's a big role, so why would you change the that's like changing the font size to like not, to make it like less of a
Important. Yeah.
important, yeah, important. That doesn't,
Yeah.
This
So anyway,
is-
that's one thing I thought of when I thought of marketing. That poster has stuck in my mind, which shows you how important it is because that movie came out like 4 years ago. Oh, it's
yeah,
been a while, and I still remember it.
right.
So
Well, right, because we don't realize, I think, for our, especially right now with Instagram and our phones, it's right there. And we're just scrolling so quickly. An image is going to pop up and it's going to, it resonates with you and you remember it. I mean, even for Parasite, I was so intrigued by this, the art that they used, where it's just a lot of, they're literally just standing there and then they have the black, um, square or rectangle over their
over
eyes.
the eyes, yeah,
And I was like, what is this story about? And I immediately wanted to see it. I was like, I'm all in. Like, let's go.
yeah.
I
So
it is that marketing is important, and you have to have representation there as well.
yeah. So to wrap up on that topic, both Allie and I have endorsed Parasite. Go watch it. Uh,
Do it.
so
You
okay,
will not regret it.
yes, 2 hours well spent.